Hello and welcome to the Vicars Watch Dibley,
the podcast where real priests talk about pop culture and what we've learned about faith, life and the church. We've watched Dibley, now we're watching everything else. I'm Cate.
And I'm Ruthi, and today we're talking about Rev, which is a series that started in 2010, and we're going to go through the series a bit more in detail over the next few podcasts. It's a brilliant episode where we're introduced to the Rev Adam Smallbone and what ministry looks like for him in central London after being in a country parish. We should probably warn you that in the middle of this episode, I have a feeding baby and Cate has a digging dog. So you may hear some slightly odd noises that we struggle to edit out, but hopefully that just gives an insight into vicarage life. Hello. We're in our vicarages. You're listening in. We're ready and raring to talk about Rev. Kind of properly, fully, finally. We have done a Rev episode before, but now we're going to do the whole thing.
Yeah, Rev's review Rev.
Yeah, Rev's on Rev. We have talked about an episode previously in the podcast, haven't we? But this time we are going to... we're going to go through the series a bit more as a whole, aren't we? And just see how we find it.
We're going to go episode by episode, not scene by scene, as we did for Vicar of Dibley. But we are going to go episode by episode.
Yeah, go through it bit by bit and see, do a bit more comparison, because it's quite a different context, isn't it, for ministry. So Vicar of Dibley is very rural and villagey, whereas this is inner city London. So we'll get into that in a moment. What have you been up to so far this week? You say you've got a brilliant sermon illustration that you can never use.
I've got a brilliant sermon illustration I can never use. So my dog Millie, bless her, is a reluctant pooer. I love her to bits, but for whatever reason, she's a reluctant pooer. She likes to store it all up, but if it involves going outside, she'll spend the smallest amount of time possible that she can. So she'll wait until she's completely full before she goes. I, the other week, have discovered that one of the ways I can encourage her to poo, especially so, I have a connective tissue disorder, so sometimes her exercise is in the garden rather than going for a long walk. She's a very small dog and she enjoys being in the garden. When we're going for a walk, she's a lot happier to poo, although she'll poo and then she'll want to go straight back inside if she can. But anyway, when we're in the garden, to encourage her to spend enough time outside to actually decide that she wants to do a poo, I've discovered that if I squat by her, she will be far more interested in then going to squat herself and emptying herself of her burden.
Oh, you're squatting buddies.
And I was thinking, is this kind of like how God feels? Like, he sees us full of all of our gunk from sin. And being incredibly reluctant to get rid of it.
I see where this is going.
And then,
I like it.
And then and he does so much in the Old Testament, does so much to try and tell us to go and get rid of it. You know, like I tell Millie, just do a poo, you'll feel so much better, right? But it's only in getting down to her level that she realises she can do this and she'll feel better. And it's only when God gets down to our level in the incarnation as Jesus and shows us how to relieve ourselves of our burden of sin and shame that we do.
In the incarnation, the Lord squats beside us.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. And I've thought, on one hand, this feels incredibly profound. I felt a great closeness with God in that moment. But also I could never use it in the pulpit.
No, so use it in
So
the podcast.
I thought I would
instead.
use it for the podcast because I felt that I was less likely to get a complaint about talking about poo on the podcast. Whereas in church, if I talked about poo in a sermon, I think I'd get some complaints.
Might be frowned upon.
It might be frowned upon.
Yeah, that's a shame. Because it works. It does.
It works. Do you find that with Maggie?
I like it. No. But Maggie, I've got another dog-related vicarage story. Maggie is a rubbish guard dog. So some people have a vicarage dog who will bark at the door and just let other people know that they're there. Whereas the other night, me and Nat were just hanging out. I was, Esme was with us and all this kind of stuff. And a man just turned up in our conservatory.
Oh.
Just walked through the door and Maggie did absolutely nothing. She was in the sofa. A lesson to us as a reminder to always lock your back door. This man was absolutely hammered. Had clearly had quite a good night out, but so good that he had lost his phone and his friends and thought he was at his own house. And instead we're like, no, it turns out he actually lives about half an hour away from us. So
Wow.
I found this all very hilarious eventually. But
Quite scary.
I think Nat was initially on the scary. I was probably on the scary as well. But he started talking to him and then went, oh no, okay, actually you are just a harmless drunk person at this time. And so invited him in, gave him some water, got him to a taxi home, messaged his missus via Facebook so I could say he was safe. And he turned up the next day actually, because it turns out his phone was in our garden. So on Find My Phone, he discovered not only his phone, but his glasses as well. So he was pretty pleased to get those back. But he was... one of my distinct memories of him being in there is he was upset, understandably, that he'd lost his phone and his glasses, but he was thrilled that he still had his Pokemon cards in his pocket. So he kept his Pokemon cards but lost his phone. And I think, actually, I wasn't going to tell that story, but that's quite a nice segue into the life of the Reverend Adam Smallbone and the random people he encounters in his ministry.
Yeah, so let's talk about the first episode of Rev, season 1, episode 1, On Your Knees, Forget the Fees.
Yes. Did you watch Rev when it first came out?
I did not watch Rev when it first came out. I think so. I have a difficult relationship with terrestrial programming.
You sound such a snob.
that goes on, not just the BBC but anything live broadcast. Because I've rocked my brain with YouTube. I don't know. When I first came across it, I think it felt far too close to home at the time for me.
Yes.
And I just couldn't bring myself to watch it. And actually, watching it, I realised I really liked it. Watching this episode. When it was on, I just, for whatever reason, I don't know why, I just couldn't bring myself to watch it. What about you?
I think I did watch it when it first came out, but like you, there was an episode, and when we get to it later on, where I couldn't watch it. It hit too close to the bone at that point. But yeah, it's a really cracking series, and there's bits. So there's various people who helped to write it who are reverends. Yeah. And it's very evident in that there's bits where you're like, oh, that is very, very truthful to what we do. So it was released in 2010 was when it first came out. And then there were 3 series of it, including a Christmas special. And we're going to go through episode by episode.
Yeah.
It's got an amazing cast of people in it. So you've got people like Tom Hollander, who plays the Reverend Adam Smallbone. And his wife is Olivia Flipping Colman, national treasure, and just glorious woman who is a somewhat reluctant vicar's wife, which is quite nice to see, actually. Someone who isn't just like, oh, yeah, this is, I always expected to be a vicar's wife and I'm happy to do that. She's a lawyer. And then you've also got people like Miles Jupp, who plays the reader in it. And reader is not someone who reads, it's a role in the Church of England. And he's also exploring ordination, I think, isn't he? As part of it later on.
And he Miles Jupp played Archie in Balamory.
Yes, he did!
I'm afraid every time I see him, I still get the big pink jumper and the glasses and the curly hair, because he lived in a big pink castle in Balamory.
Yeah. And iconically, to link into our origins, the person, Simon McBurney is his name, who plays the archdeacon, is also Cecil from Vicar of Dibley.
I know.
So we're all come back around as part of it.
And in my head, that is Cecil, who through the years actually went forward for ordination and was ordained, and then grew through the ranks and is now archdeacon.
And completely changed his personality.
Season 1, episode 1 of Rev begins, and it's just like Vicar of Dibley begins, with Geraldine arriving in Dibley. And the first episode of Rev it starts with the welcome bash.
They've been there a month, haven't they?
And we don't see the welcome bash. It starts with the hangover from the welcome bash.
Yes. Yeah, you see them in church, and he invites everyone to thanks for having us this month and for all your generosity. Come on over, and then you see the effect of the hangover next day.
Yeah, and Adam has moved from rural ministry to city ministry, to urban ministry as we call it, which is a huge, massive difference. And we will talk as well. We will talk about this, I think, as we go through the episodes. Both of us having done ministry I've done rural, semi-rural, and what I would call semi-urban and urban. So I feel like I've had a bit of a breadth of it. And I think you have as well, Ruthie.
Yeah. There's definitely, especially from childhood, and my dad, the churches he's been part of as well. I think there's definitely Collins and Adoas that I can think of who've been part of my ministry journey.
But the first thing that really, for me, when I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is real. Weirdly enough, was the bird table in the kitchen. So it's one of the first scenes. It's the hangover after the party, and Adam comes in looking completely wrecked, which I initially thought this was just a Sunday afternoon, because that's me after Sunday services, but no, this is the day after. And the bird table, and I just thought, you know what, that is, like, you get such a random accumulation of stuff in the vicarage. And some of it is gifts, some of it is random stuff which has transferred because it can't be stored in the church.
And photocopiers. A popular one. Yeah.
A random locked filing cabinet. That was one of the things that I acquired when I moved here. Eventually managed to get it open, and there was nothing interesting in it, which was quite sad.
Shame.
But particularly for me, like, I often find myself being offered things that people are getting rid of, things which are kind of valuable, which might have a use to the church, or might be useful for me to hang on to until I can find someone who it would benefit more. So
Yeah.
the first instance I came across this was in my second curacy church. Someone was getting rid of an electric drum kit. And they knew that I did a bit of drumming. So I said, oh, yeah, I'll have that. They offered it to me. And I was like, yeah, I'll have that. Lived in my spare room for ages until I got here. And then one of my neighbours was downsizing and getting rid of a stand-up piano, but had a grandson who wanted an electric drum kit. So we did a swap. I now have a stand-up piano, which I've played a little bit. I'm not a pianist. And I fully expect to, at some point, give away to someone who's learning piano. Because that's the sort of way that possessions are gained and lost in a vicarage.
Yes. But at least all of yours have been through legal means that you've got yours, whereas Colin's definitely nicked that bird table
definitely
to give to Adam.
Neighbours.
It's it's an odd thing. And churches are the same, aren't they? That there's random collections of things, and you come in and to the vestry, which is kind of like the office of a church building, and you'll go, why on earth? Oh, one of the great ones in a previous church was this picture that, you know, those pictures where when you move around the room they change scenes. Like you like flick it up and down, it'll change scenes. There was a massive one of those, and it had like Jesus Last Supper, and then you move around the room and it was Jesus on the cross, and it was the tackiest, most amazing thing. I wish we'd stolen it. I wish we'd taken it with us afterwards. But that was one of the things going, where on earth did that come from? And you just have to go, right, okay, now it's in there and we've got to deal with it. It's a nice bird table.
We do need to be careful of things that arrive in church, because if they're valuable, they end up on something called the terrier, which is not a dog. It's not a dog, unfortunately. It's basically a record, a log of all the valuable things in a church, which gets reviewed by the archdeacon every few years to make sure the valuable things are still there, or if they've been gotten rid of, to make sure that they were gotten rid of appropriately, rather than just thrown on a bonfire, which I have encountered places where that has happened before.
But speaking of archdeacons, the archdeacon is such a key character, and you're introduced to him in this episode. And apparently based off an actual archdeacon in London who was known for travelling around in a taxi and just picking people up to have conversations and then carrying on.
Which, like,
he's an awful archdeacon.
He is not a good archdeacon. Things I immediately noticed, aside from just his extremely unpastoral way of dealing with Adam, bless him, and his extremely off-colour, inappropriate comments which would have me contacting safeguarding about one of Adam's parishioners.
Is this about Adoa? And her love of the sermons.
His purple scarf, like, if I met him in real life, I'd be like, there is an archdeacon who wants to be a bishop. Like,
and you meet people like that, don't you? Where you think you want to be a bishop. You act in a way that, you want to be. You're not happy with your lot currently.
If you haven't come across an archdeacon before, I think we've mentioned it. An archdeacon is actually, when my dad got made an archdeacon, this is how it was explained to me, is it's largely an administrative position where you're essentially doing a lot of a dog's body work for the bishop. You are doing a lot of on the ground, visiting parishes, making sure that the records of the valuables that are in the church are in order, making sure that the vicars are doing their job, making sure that all of the ducks are lined up, and so there's that side of it, and also doing disciplinary stuff, attending lots and lots of senior leadership meetings, and when the bishop wants to, hammer a point in, you get sent in to do the dirty work, really. But
they're also a source of knowledge as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
So the archdeacon's one of the people that I would go to go, I've got this question, am I allowed to do this? And they'll go, yes or no, or, oh, that's interesting, I need to look that up.
Yeah, so a really good archdeacon is actually one of the primary support systems for a parish priest. They are, in a way, they are your line manager to an extent. And just as in any other job, you can have good managers and bad managers. You know, you could have a job's worth, or you could have someone who's really great and like actually cares more about your well-being and your flourishing than the numbers you're producing. So a really good archdeacon is there for you to call on when you encounter something which you've never come across before. That's something which is out of your expertise, something which is beyond your expertise, something which is starting to get quite worrying for you and you need additional support, something that you say, I just need to pull back from this, please can you step in? So what are times where you might call an archdeacon in for help?
Well, I've often had to speak to the archdeacon for things like weddings. So because I have a very lovely ruined church building, I get asked on a regular basis to do a wedding there, and I can't. And so I've asked for various wedding thwhat of legalities about, can I do this? And then if they live in this parish but they want to get married here, and what do I need to do, and all this kind of stuff. I've also had to contact an archdeacon about weddings when someone wanted me to get a different vicar because they weren't happy that I was in a same gender relationship and didn't want me to marry them. And I was like, what are their legal rights here? Because you have a legal right to be married in your parish church, but is that by your parish priest? And so we had lots of questions we had to ask and work out about that. That was very complicated. Also, my archdeacon, who is a good one, a very good one, he is a big fan of American football, so he's often my go-to person to talk to about American football as well.
My archdeacon is really, really good. His wife has chronic illness. So from even before I got the job, so when I was before I was even sure I was going to apply for the job, I called up my archdeacon, Derek. He's great, Derek. Love him. He's a fan of Doctor Who as well. I saw we had a video chat in his background. There was like a little TARDIS, and I was like, you're one of my people. Because and I said, I've got chronic illness. And I was really cautious about going to rural ministry because of this. And he said, we will make it work. And he's actually, every time I see him, he's like, if you ever need me to step in on a Sunday because you have a flare-up, just let me know.
That's lovely.
Because he actually lives kind of fairly close as well. So, So there's that sense. Also, if you're having interpersonal issues with anyone, there's tensions with someone. If you're a young woman in ministry, you're always going to have some people who things just aren't going to work out with, or it can be really difficult to want to have difficult conversations with people who are about 5 times your age and don't respect women. So that's, you call in your archdeacon. So a really good archdeacon you can call on when you need, and in a way they're at your beck and call almost, rather than just picking you up and then throwing you out on a roundabout.
Oh, yeah. He is the trope of the kind of worst archdeacon.
Yeah.
So there are, because I believe we've both encountered them, not great archdeacons. So what we've described is how they should be. Yeah. But there are definitely not brilliant archdeacons as well. And so, the archdeacon in Rev definitely fills that trope of people who, aren't helpful.
But what I really liked, one thing that stuck with me from training, we were trained by now the Right Reverend Mark Tanner. He's now a bishop, but at the time he was the warden of our theological college. And he talked about archdeacons. He kind of was talking about the order of clergy. You've got deacons, priests and bishops. And you have your archbishop and an archdeacon, and they used to be archpriests. There aren't archpriests anymore. But for me, something really clicked in how we should see our relationship with archdeacons at that point, because the ordination as deacon, all clergy are ordained deacon first. Whether we go on to become priests or bishops, we are all deacons. And the role of a deacon is one of service within the church. Our role is to care for people, is a pastoral role. And so the archdeacon, they are supposed to be like the one in charge with oversight over the deacons, essentially. But theirs is like the prime care role. And I really liked that. Whereas bishops, it's about oversight. And priesthood, I mean, technically is about ordering, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bringing order to the worship of a people. Anyway, archpriests don't exist. What is our job? It's everything. But yeah, that's archdeacons. They're supposed to be caring and pastoral. They aren't always.
Yeah. No. And the archdeacon is he's a bit of a panto villain in it, isn't he?
Yeah.
And also Adam's, new, so he doesn't want to rock the boat too much, does he? And wants to, actually, if this is the main pastoral support, you want to have that good relationship with him. That changes over the seasons, but he's a nasty piece of work to begin with.
Yeah. But he flags up what is going to be the kind of prime, not conflict, but the big thing from this episode, where he asks something about attendance, and Adam ums and ahs, and then the archdeacon makes an offhand comment about how he's going to have lots of people coming for school-placed christenings.
Yes.
And then shoves Adam out of the car, essentially.
And it's because the church school has recently, there's rumours of an excellent Ofsted report. It's in old money now because the how they do Ofsted has changed. Yeah. But that it's outstanding. With elements of outstanding.
What is a church school? Asks the one who is a deputy chair of governors for a church school.
Snap. A church school is, what I don't know about them historically, but they have a strong connection to the church. So they will have a basis within Christianity and an expectation that Christian values are part of the kind of makeup at the school, and that they have a, that forms a core identity of the school. Yes. Actually its Christian nature.
So it's to do with the foundation of the school, how it was started, historically to do with money, but now more to do with where the oversight and organisation is coming from. So you have, I guess, this is, we're talking now about schools, not what in the UK we call public schools, which are private schools, UK funny terminology, as in not paid schools but free schools.
Free.
So we'll call them state schools, because all church schools are also state schools in this term. So you have schools which are managed by the local authority, so that's by the council, and schools which are multi-academy trusts, which are sort of private organisations, private trusts for the oversight of the schools. And then you have religious schools, so particularly church schools, Church of England schools, where historically the school would have been started by and supported by the local parish church. Often the original school building would have been very close to the church, and then historically there's been a very strong relationship. And in the foundational document, governance document of the school, the parish priest is one of the school governors. So whoever has the incumbency, has the role, is part of that governing board. So we have a church school in one of my parishes. I am on the board of governors. luckily, I'm not the chair of the Board of Governors. I am deputy chair. And there's two co-chairs. So actually, I don't have much of a role as a co-chair. But what it means is that we make sure, aside from making sure that as governors that the school is keeping up to standards with the national curriculum and national standards, we're also trying to make sure that it holds true to the religious ethos of the Church of England. And there is a separate as well as Ofsted, which is how the government inspects schools to work out how up to standard they are. There's a separate one for church schools, which is called SIAMS. And the school also gets support from the diocese as well. There's a board of education. So.
I'm very fortunate to be governor of both the Church of England school, but also a non-church school. And so get to see the kind of two different perspectives from it, and what I am allowed to do in it is somewhat different, but actually lots of it is very similar. So collective worship or assemblies should have a broadly Christian understanding, whether it's a Church of England school or not. So, I get to do lots of cool things as the governor, which I love. Yeah. It's one of my favourite bits of my job, I think.
Yeah.
It's I got to go in on World Book Day and hung out with them when it was in my governor role. And this was at my son's school. And they all dressed up as, there's a book series called Little People, Big Lives. And they're like little biographies of different famous people. So there's ones for like Gandhi and Mother Teresa, but also like Queen Elizabeth II and David Bowie and all of this kind of stuff. And so all the kids dressed up as different characters from these books. Yeah. And so I did as well, and my daughter did too, and we got to go and hang out at school. And it was one of those things where I just thought, actually, as a governor, I get a really privileged position to be in this place and to support the children and the staff.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is a really important part of it, is it's, yes, the kids are vital in all of this, and they are, the first port of call for lots of this. But actually, it's about caring for staff as well.
Yeah.
And
what I really like about being on the Board of Governors is it makes you, in a job where we don't really have colleagues in the same way as if you have an office job, it feels like you have colleagues and you have adults of a similar age that you're working with and you're supporting. And I feel like a member of staff at the school. In a way, having been a teacher previously, it feels there's a huge number of similarities there, and it is nice to, aside from taking on more things to do, but to be able to think about how you're, like you said, you're part of that community, and it's a very different way, an expansion of being part of a church community and a village community, and it's something else we see in this episode, an insight into the working relationship of equals that Adam has with Ellie, the head teacher, that I see, that I have with Grace, my head teacher.
He's immediately creepy with the head teacher, though. That's an issue I have with this particular, and that he's always kind of, oh, hello, Ellie, you look nice today, and all of this. And I just think,
is that because he's an awkward cisgendered white man?
Probably. That's part of it.
And we're getting his internal monologue to a sense, even if we're not actually hearing it. I mean, this came out around the same time as Peep Show, I think.
Around the same time as what, sorry?
Peep Show.
Did it?
And I guess The Office UK, where that kind of sense of cringe comedy, where we're getting that focalization of that particular way of thinking. I don't know. I'm just wondering. Obviously we know later on Adam goes on to have, spoiler alert, a bit of an affair with Ellie. So we know it does tip over. I think initially, in terms of first instance, I see it as this is a man who recognises that he is attracted to someone. He doesn't want to make anything of it because he loves his wife and he recognises that he's a vicar. But we're seeing that human side of him in a very different way. So with Geraldine in Vicar of Dibley, the way that she responds to and is attracted to men is very, very in your face. Like, she never really tries to hide it, does she? No. And yes, she's single, and a huge part of her identity is wanting to pair off. But just because Adam is married and a vicar doesn't mean that he doesn't still recognise other people as attractive. It just doesn't mean he's not going to act on it, and he's not going to dwell on it either. And everyone's saying to him, it's like the MP is saying to him, oh, she's really attractive. I bet you've thought about blah, 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 blah.
Ugh.
So
one of my favourite devices on all of Rev, on the series, is his inner monologue prayers. Yeah. That you hear him pray. It's not out loud in the way that Geraldine had, sometimes she does her, Lord, if I'm very, very good, will you let him get a little crush on me? Or that kind of thing, that you hear her speak it. Whereas with Rev, you see him sat or walking or whatever it might be. And there's a voice recording of his inner prayer monologue. And I think that's one of the most accurate bits of what ministry feels like for me at times, definitely, of just kind of having this chat to God, of going, actually I've noticed the head teacher is pretty fit, and help me with that, Lord, but also I'm wrestling with this and I'm struggling with that, and but I'm really thankful for this, and all these different bits go on as part of his faith, and you see that and hear that really obviously in it. And I think that's a really brilliant device that they use.
Yeah, and as a device for, I think, what Rev does really well in a way that I think Dibley doesn't. I love Dibley. We are
really?
Vicars Dibley.
You never mentioned that.
But Rev actually is bringing the spiritual conversation in there. And we're presented with the ridiculous, the painful and the cringeworthy. But then there's a turn of, we've been seeing everything a little bit through Adam's eyes, and then we start to hear Adam's prayer. And it just starts to switch things into changing the perspective slightly, which I really liked. So I particularly liked in this episode. So earlier on in the episode, we hear a snippet of Adam's sermon of the week right at the end, just as people are coming in late during the sermon, which is quite far through. And I tried to write down, he finishes with some sort of prayer or poem, which I couldn't find through research, which is something like, when I walk with the little ones in the world, with the outcasts, with the sick, with the poor. I walk with the broken ones of the world, and I walk with you. Which I absolutely love. I want to hear that sermon. But then that comes back later at that kind of pivotal moment where he's sat in the church praying, and he's reflecting on everything that's happening. And this is after he's done a bit of... if you haven't watched the episode, one of the big things is you've got... a window gets broken after their wild partying, And it's going to cost a lot to repair, which if you've seen...
A window in the church.
For window and for weather. Yeah, so a window in the church. So if you've seen,
clear,
for Vicar of Dibley episode for window and the weather, same premise.
Yeah.
A window's broken, it's really expensive to replace it. What we're going to do. An MP, local MP, has started to come to church in order to get his son a place in the school. His son is apparently not a very nice boy. The MP says, if you write a letter of recommendation supporting my son to get a place, despite the fact I've only been to church once, then I have a friend who will give you the money to repair the window. In order to do this, the headmistress will only allow this if Adam allows the headmistress's sister to get married on a certain date. That wedding date has already been booked by a couple at the local pub. And it's an important date because it's when the funeral date or birth date of a deceased parent, the deceased father of the bride. And Adam is considering doing this wheeling and dealing to be able to fix the window. And then he's sat and he's praying. And he says, I'm sorry, God. I'm supposed to walk with a broken, aren't I? Not horse trade with the headmistress, Toxic MP, and Gemma the barmaid. Speak to me, Lord. Your servant is listening. And there's just, for me, the sermon he started the week with and the prayer he closes the week with, that's such a real experience for me. Not necessarily the wheeling and dealing, although one great frustration of this job is with in being in the Church of England, there's a lot of rubbing elbows with the middle class and higher, rather than necessarily spending more time with the poor. That's not true universally, but a lot of this job it's a very middle class job.
Where your church is,
but that, for me, as you said, there's that constant prayer exchange with God going on. Also, a constant reflection as we're thinking about what we're preaching is as much God speaking to us as us speaking to other people. And through the week, I very often find that through the week, what I have been reflecting on preaching about is always relevant to what's happening to me. And sometimes that's because what's happening to me is shaping my reflections. But quite often I'm finding that what I'm reflecting on through the grace of God is helping me respond to the things that I'm encountering.
One of the things that I particularly love about this episode is that Adam decides he can't sell out, he can't move this wedding and all this kind of stuff for Gemma the barmaid, and because actually that's more important. And so he continues, and he gets flack from the MP and he gets flack from Ellie and all this kind of stuff. And then he goes to the pub to chat to the wedding couple and go, oh, I'm really excited to do your wedding. It's going to be wonderful. And then she says, oh, it'd be great, And then after that, it'd be really good to talk about getting our daughter christened. And he's like, oh, yeah, that would be brilliant. That'd be really great. And then it'd be lovely to talk about getting her into that lovely school of yours. And you just see his face fall of going, there's an alternative motive here as well. And I just like how that kind of, there's never a complete right answer. There's never a complete, this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. A lot of the time, actually, people are complex and have ulterior motives for stuff. And just, it's kind of heartbreaking but real at the same time of going, they've got another agenda in this I think because you can also see right from the first encounter that Adam has with Gemma and her fiancé, he's already finding this interaction difficult. Whether that's because he's just not comfortable in the pub or he's not comfortable with... I mean,
So she talks about wanting to get married on this date because she knows that her dad will be watching over her, particularly on that day.
Yeah.
And you can almost feel with him the restraint from commenting on the theology of, well, he's either always looking down on you, or he's with God and at peace and he's not. It's the, I think one of the really interesting things about parish ministry is what I call the folk religion you encounter, which is very different from academic theology, and not necessarily wrong.
No.
In theological college, you get really hammered into you what is orthodox, what is correct, avoid heresy. And then once you're in public ministry, once you're actually in the parish, you need to remember that that's not life. It's important for the vicar to know what's heresy and what's not. It's important for the vicar to have a very strong sense of what the church believes, and what should and shouldn't be said in the pulpit, such as don't do a poo analogy in the pulpit, to bring things around.
Nice.
But actually, real theology, real faith, is so much more pastoral. It's about journeying with people where they are. We hold orthodoxy so that everyone else can encounter God and discover of God what they can, and ask us questions when they want to. It's about them coming to us and us having the conversations. But as soon as you start to shut down someone's earnestly, truly lived experience, you've lost them. And you've done something wrong. You can say, well, in my experience, actually, this is what's happening. In my experience. But actually, if you feel closer to your loved one who's passed away in a particular place or on a particular day, let's allow that. And it's really not harming anyone. I don't see if it's any more wrong than anything else in many respects. But it is that tension of parish ministry where sometimes someone says something and you're like, that's not quite what the church teaches. It's not quite Orthodox Christianity, but you know what? I can see your heart, and your heart is beautiful. And that's what I thought of with Gemma, is I can see her heart, and her heart is beautiful. And yes, right at the end, she's like, we'll talk about getting our daughter into that school. But again, the heart of that is, they are local, they are living in the parish, so their daughter has a right to a place in that school anyway. And the heart of it is seeing all these outsiders trying to get a place in the school. You know, these are people who are probably just outside the catchment area, in the catchment area of another school, trying to get a place by orchestrating a connection with the church, because that's another way to get a place in a church school, is if you are a member of a church where it's connected. And as soon as you
start... Depending on its admissions policy.
Yeah, and as soon as you start to see, I can see with them the anxiety of my child. Isn't it lovely that our local school is becoming a better school, but also maybe our child won't get a place in the school because it's become a better school. Okay.
I was much more cynical and didn't think of that. I was maybe feeling
a bit more charitable, especially after just before this, or was it just after, we've just had the MP be a complete a-hole. And say some horrible things.
But it's Alexander Armstrong. He's just the most wonderful man.
But basically, say some really nasty stuff.
Yeah.
About Adam and about the church. So,
there we go.
Incredibly real in a very different way that Dibley is. Dibley is real as young women in ministry. There were many things in rural ministry which, as young women, maybe the first women in some of the roles we've held, we've experienced many things that Geraldine has gone through, but all presented in a much more humorous way. Whereas in Rev, they cut very close to the bone, and I think are more common across all clergy rather than that specific demographic of young female clergy. It very interestingly, Adam gets catcalled a few times. By
the
he gets called Vicar of Dibley by the builders. I think more unique to male and male presenting clergy is a few allegations about sexual misconduct and safeguarding allegations which are catcalled to him.
But the humour of it is that all the time he's wearing his collar, and so he's just like smiles it off and all this kind of the end. And at the end, he's so frustrated, he takes off his dog collar and tells them, "Would you just F off?" And then you see the shocked faces, and then he puts his collar back in and carries on the day. And it's just like, there's definitely times in our lives. I'm saying definitely times in mine. I would hate to assume that you metaphorically or physically take off the dog collar in order to deal with some rage that you might have.
I remember one of our tutors talking about a road rage incident where I think he took his collar off to tell someone off. Or in fact didn't take his collar off and told someone off and then realised he was wearing his collar. I think it's going to be a theme as we continue to talk through Rev of that sense of people don't see vicars as people often. And people will say stuff to the clergy as the church, really. They're saying it to the church, not to the person. And they'll say stuff to clergy. Sometimes that can go really well because people will open up in a way they wouldn't open up to you otherwise. But you also get, as much as you get everyone's pain, sometimes in a very productive way and sometimes in a way which is just hurtful to you. And I think we will continue to see through Rev that balance of Adam as a person and Adam as a vicar. We see it multiple times through the episode. We have the insight into Adam's marriage. You know, he's like trying to have sex with his wife because Vicar's shag.
She's like, take the collar off right now.
Exactly. Even his wife is like, I'm not going to get intimate with you while you're wearing your collar. And I'm looking forward to seeing that play out. Having seen other episodes which we've watched for this pod, knowing how it does play out, and it's not a wonderful resolution. And what Adam could learn from Geraldine, as we bring things to a close, what Geraldine does is she doesn't have the separation of self.
Is that good or bad?
And we saw through Dibley, she started wearing her collar less and less. Is that good or bad? Who knows? There were huge ramifications to her having a lack of boundaries, which we came across in Dibley. But that's one end of the spectrum. On this other end of the spectrum, I think you can be over-segmented, over-compartmentalised, because you cease to be human to your parishioners.
I'm having therapy at the moment and was trying to explain about being the vicar but also being on maternity leave and how difficult that can be because you can't segment it. And my therapist was just like, well, you can, like, you just have to. It's work and all this kind of stuff. And I was trying to explain it. I must have explained it really badly, going, no, you can't because... You know, just getting me on maternity leave, getting the bus into town, living in a rural place, you're just so aware of what's going on in the lives of the other people on the bus who you know in that kind of vicar capacity. Like, it's just, it's a complicated mess, and we see how Adam deals with it or doesn't deal with it.
We won't talk about it now, but a conversation to have in a future episode will be the difference of that experience in rural and urban ministry. In rural ministry, you are always a vicar. Everyone knows who you are. whether you are wearing your collar or not, whether you are dressed, even if you're dressed semi in disguise because you're wearing dungarees or a hoodie and you've got your hood up, everyone knows you're a vicar.
Like big glasses, mustache, hood up. No one will know it's me going out.
In urban ministry, I felt invisible. I mean, I was a curate, but you're just one face among many.
Among many. Common as muck. Anyway,
this has been really lovely to talk about.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of diving into a series fully, actually, and journeying with characters on their character arc and seeing where people go. And we are going to alternate. So our next episode we'll be talking about something completely different. But then the episode after next, we'll look at episode 2 of Rev. Yes, and that one is, I think, will hit close to the bone for both of us.
So, in the meantime, do continue to let us know if there's things you'd like us to watch. Or if you'd like us to have someone on to join us for these conversations.
Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you for listening to the Vicars Watch Dearly podcast.
Any opinions expressed are our own and don't necessarily reflect the views of the Church of England or any other organisation with which we are affiliated.
Thank you to Nat, our producer and editor.
If you liked our podcast, please leave a review and share it with your friends.
And as always, bless you for listening. Why was the fungus a hypocrite?
Oh, I don't know. Why was the fungus a hypocrite?
Because it didn't have mushroom to talk.
Ah, nice. Oh.